Let's go over the zero-based budgeting method. So when I first started budgeting, when I graduated college, I naturally just did the zero-based budgeting method. Like I didn't even know that that was a term until I was researching budgeting later. And the reason why I gravitated towards it is because it's so easy when you think about it, your finances in a way where it's just how much money am I getting and how much money should I spend of all the money I got, you know? So I like it because it's just simple in my mind. Like every dollar is accounted for, every dollar has a job. I like concepts like that because it shows like how productive each dollar is towards like your actual life goals, right? So zero-based budgeting is basically when your income minus your expenses is equal to zero. So every dollar that you make goes to a part of your budget. So if you have $5 left over, you're going to make a budget for that $5. So you could call it miscellaneous. I like to call it miscellaneous. Or you could be like, okay, I know I need a gum budget. I know I need that, so I'll just make it my gum budget. So what categories should you include in your zero-based budget or your budget in general? So I like to include categories like this. Obviously, your rent and mortgage, your utilities, your transportation, whether that be a car loan, gas, public transportation pass, your food. I like to split it into groceries and eating out. Your subscriptions like Netflix or Spotify or Hulu or Birchbox, whatever. Health and wellness, so therapy, hair salon, acupuncture, massages, gym memberships, miscellaneous shopping, so clothes shopping, gift shopping for Christmas, birthdays, Valentine's Day, even holiday shopping, you know, like Halloween, what's your costume gonna be? Pets, so for food, for grooming, for vet bills, childcare, so that's a huge budget for a lot of people. So for daycare, for other like miscellaneous expenses they have, like they could be, you know, doing basketball practice or whatever. So there's fees associated with that. So these are just some categories that I like to think about. You probably have thought about different categories yourself. You know what you spend your money on. And that's why it's so important to actually look at your bank account and like actually spend some time and legitimately look at it to see what you've been spending. And we're going to kind of talk about that with our financial apps in the next section. But it's super helpful to actually see what you spend your money on. And they do a really good job for you of just categorizing it so that you can have an awareness. Sometimes it's all about the awareness of what you're spending your money on. Like I've spent, you know, $600 on food one month and been like, oh my God, is that really me? I cannot do that. I need to go grocery shopping more. So don't forget, you need to include a savings category and a debt payoff category if needed into your budget. So do not forget this. I know that it might seem like it's kind of not a natural category, but this is an absolute must. You need to know that you're going to be saving every month, and you need to know how many dollars you're going to put towards it, and you need to know that you're working towards your goal of paying off your debt. So what time period should you budget for? So if you're less disciplined with money, budget for a shorter time period. So try to do a week or 2 weeks. A lot of people get paid bi-weekly, so 2 weeks makes sense, more than 1 week. So as you get more disciplined and more knowledgeable about money, budget for longer periods of time, 1 month. So I say also, like, we typically pay monthly expenses, so having a monthly budget is kind of a must for everyone. Like that should be, in some senses, your standard is the monthly budget just because we pay a lot of our expenses on a monthly basis. And then also have a yearly budget in addition to your monthly budget because you want to have a long-term view of your finances, right? Like also sometimes we just forget that we might have a huge charge, you know, sometime in the year and you have no idea. Like if you forget that your Amazon Prime subscription is renewing in February, who remembers anything in February? The month is shorter. So if you don't remember that, you might be screwed and then be scrambling because you didn't think about it, right? So I like doing a yearly budget as well so that you can catch things like that, but also so that you know that you're meeting your long-term goals. Like it's easier to think about it in terms of like, my goal of $6,000 from my retirement income, having it budgeted every month is really cool, but seeing in a year, oh my God, I'm going to accumulate $6,000 for my 401k is awesome. As well as saying, oh, I'm going to accumulate, $6,000 in an emergency fund. Or, oh, I'm going to put, 10 grand maybe to my car loan. And seeing that is super gratifying. So when you get advanced, you'll want to do a 5 to 10 year budget. Planning and budgeting for me is super fun. And we're going to kind of like do a kind of 5 to 10 year perspective in our Let's Put It All Together at the end of this course, which is actually the most fun thing for me. I can spend all day on a Saturday doing a financial plan for my 10 year, 20, 30 year future. So I'm just saying it's fun. It's fun when you kind of think about it. It's fun when you can kind of see the dollars accumulating in terms of investments. Like it's fun to be like, oh, like I could actually like legitimately in 20 years have like $5 million if I plan my life right. Like it's just kind of fun to know that. So let's go through a zero-based budgeting example. So again, we want to make sure that our income and our expenses are equal to each other. So first we see our income after taxes, and I like to just take out taxes from the get-go just because, you're probably not going to get them back except for your tax return. But if you're doing your taxes right, you probably really shouldn't get a return anyways, but that's another point. But I just like to think about it after taxes because it's the actual money you're going to have in that month. And so you can see this is a monthly budget. I didn't put that there, but this is a monthly budget because that's typically how I look at my expenses normally. So we see I have a total of expenses of $3,346, which is the same as my income after taxes. And how did we get here? So I have a rent plus utilities budget. I really should probably separate my rent and utilities to kind of show kind of the breakdowns more, but I kind of know it. So I just like lump them together, and it's give or take. Like some months it might be a little bit more because of like, your water bill or your electric bill or whatever. But on average it's about $13.15, and I'm fine with, variations. It's cool. Cause it's not really huge variations. It's just like probably a $5 variation in utilities. So I just kind of lump them together. And so I have that as $13.15. Huge part of my budget. It's the highest part of the budget. This isn't my current budget. This was my old budget. But yeah, it's interesting because now I have a lower rent and utilities payment, which is nice. So I'm looking at it now. I don't know if this actually was my income before, after taxes. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Let's continue. So next is internet. So internet is $49.95. Car insurance is $154.88. 401k, you need to put that 401k in there. That 401k, $423 a month taken out of my account. And so it's before taxes, actually. That expense is before taxes, so it's actually really nice, which you can't really see in this type of budget. But it's before taxes, so it's like amazing. Oh, just kidding. It's not before taxes. It's after taxes because this is my Roth 401k. It's not a traditional 401k. I had to think about that. No, it's after taxes. That's fine though, because we talked about the benefit of the Roth 401k, right? That, we pay taxes now, but the gains aren't taxed. So next is savings. I have a $500 budget for that. You'll see I don't have student loans on here because kind of savings was kind of like my student loans type of budget thing before, but next is transportation. I have $75 budgeted. Food at $250. So that's including eating out, Grubhub, and going to restaurants and drinks. Next is subscriptions. I have a budget of a 120.74. I think that budget includes things like, I think it's more of like my subscriptions for my businesses actually, and then like a couple of like normal personal things like Sling TV, and a couple of other things. But actually, I think mainly that budget came from like my business expenses. Car payment at $296.51, and then I had a travel budget of $133.64. I travel a lot, not a lot, but a decent amount. Like I like to go on one international trip a year, so you kind of have to budget for that. You know, like when I went to Paris this year, I got like a $400 or $300 flight to Paris, from Denver to Paris, round trip. Yes, I know how to find flights. But like the trip in total was like, say $1,000. Maybe it was even like $800. But think about it. Like if I can just save that much, like if I can save for 5 or 6 months, I would have the money for a Paris trip every year, right? And then miscellaneous, $27.20. That's kind of miscellaneous is just good to just have. So again, that you have every dollar budgeted. And what I like to think about miscellaneous too is like kind of like your overflow. So if you accidentally spend $25, or like if I just need to like get Indian takeout, which I do once a week, I go on Grubhub and order Indian food. I just think, oh, okay, that $15 I paid for Indian food goes into my miscellaneous bucket. So I want you to sit down and spend some time writing out your zero-based budget. And look at it. It's so simple. So you can either do this, you know, using a pen and paper. You can go on Excel. You can go on Google Sheets. You know, if it helps you to write it down, write it down. I like using Excel sheets because I like easily adding it. It adds it for you. So I don't want to do the math myself with like a calculator. So I like doing it this way. But spend some time and really get familiar with your numbers and the reality of your financial situation. Like sometimes we don't know reality when we don't actually just look at it and plan for it. So take some time and do your budget.